there. We're talking about a godly man. He realizes he has a position of leadership, which is a position of service. Service that requires sacrifice of self, as in the case of Christ. Romans 5, reading verse 12. Read with me. Wherefore, as by one man sin entered into the world, and death by sin, and so death passed upon all men, for that all have sinned. Now let's look at that carefully. Wait a minute. Who sinned first? Who introduced sin into the world? Eve. But when you say Eve introduced sin into the world, now this is the world. And this is Australia. That's New Zealand. Now, when I say Eve introduced sin into the world, she was the first person on earth to sin. This is Eve right here, and this is her sin. Can you see her sin? Right there. It affected her, and that was it. The verse doesn't say, wherefore as by one woman sin entered into the world. Sin did not enter the world organically when Eve sinned. It entered her. But when Adam sinned, sin entered the entire world. It affected the animals. Vegetation began to sprout thorns. We have herbs of the field now. We have painful childbirth. We have sweat of thy brow to make a living. We have the earth that does not produce its bounties. When Adam sinned, the whole earth was affected. That was not the case when Eve sinned. So even though they were both made in the image of God, you can see the difference in responsibility because the world was placed essentially under Adam. When he fell, the whole world fell. When she fell, she alone fell. Wherefore, as by one man. I am talking about the godly man being aware of the tremendous responsibility that rests upon his shoulder. Go to Romans 5. Romans 5, read verse 18 for me. Now, nice and clear. What does it say? Therefore, as by the what? The offense of judgment came upon all men too. Even so by the righteousness of one, come on, all men to justification of life. Now, verse 19. For as by the disobedience of, who was the disobedient one? Who was that? Adam. What's the offense in verse 18? Adam's sin. What does the Bible call Christ? Keep Adam in mind. Who is Christ? The second Adam, not the second Eve. Christ is the second or the last Adam. 1 Corinthians 15, 45 and 47. He's the second or the last Adam, not the second or the last Eve. Because Christ did not come to redeem Eve's fall, he came to redeem Adam's fall. Why? Now, does Eve need a redeemer? Yes. But Eve's sin was just her problem. Adam's sin was a problem of creation. When Christ comes back, go to 2 Peter 3. Let me, the Bible tell you more clearly than I. 2 Peter chapter 3, let's read verse 10 to see what I'm trying to say. 2 Peter chapter 3, let's read verse 10. I want you to think as you listen. Think very rigorously. When you study the Bible honestly, God speaks to you. 2 Peter 3, let's read verse 10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which, come on, the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall burn with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. Now, why does God have to do that? Give me one answer. Sin. Sin, therefore, affected not only the earth, it affected that part of the heavens associated with the earth. And so the Bible says when Christ comes back, not only the earth, but the heavens will burn. Adam was made to carry heavy